Hi, I'm Alex. Moving in with my mom seemed like the only option when times got tough. It was supposed to be temporary, a safe haven for me and my 3-year-old son, Jamie, who struggles with severe asthma. But it quickly turned into one of the hardest periods of our lives. Mom, could you please smoke outside? Jamie's having trouble breathing. I found myself pleading just days after we moved in. The smoke was thick, hanging in the house like a suffocating fog. A little smoke won't hurt him. You're just being overly sensitive, Alex. My mom dismissed my concern with a casual wave, a lit cigarette dangling from her fingers. She never took Jamie's condition seriously. Please, Mom, just understand. The doctor said his asthma could get worse if he's around smoke. I tried to keep my voice calm, but it was hard. I felt like I was hitting a wall again and again. Oh, doctors exaggerate. I smoked around you when you were a kid, and look at you. You're all grown up and fine. She laughed, as if it were a joke. But it wasn't funny, not with Jamie coughing in the next room. A sound that tightened my chest every time. One day, Jamie's coughing got worse. His breaths came in shallow, wheezing gasps, and panic shot through me. Mom, we need to go to the hospital. It's bad, I said, grabbing the car keys with trembling hands. Again with this drama, you're going to drag him to the hospital every time he coughs. She scoffed, blowing a cloud of smoke in my direction. It's not just a cough, Mom. He can't breathe properly. I could barely hold back my frustration, my eyes darting to Jamie, his small hand clutching his throat. At the hospital, it was the same routine. Nebulizers, steroids, worried looks from the nurses. But all I could think about was the home we were supposed to feel safe in. We can't keep living like this, I whispered to Jamie as he lay in the hospital bed, tubes running from his tiny arm. He nodded, his wide eyes trusting, so small and vulnerable. I was all he had. Driving back, the silence in the car was unbearable. Jamie was asleep, exhausted, and I dreaded the confrontation waiting at home. Where have you been? It's late. My mom snapped as soon as we walked through the door, the familiar scent of smoke hitting me harder than before. A reminder of what we were returning to. He was in the hospital, Mom. We almost lost him tonight, I said quietly, holding back the anger and fear that threatened to spill out. And whose fault is that? Maybe if you weren't so paranoid, he wouldn't be so weak. Her words stung worse than the smoke filling my lungs. That night, I lay awake beside Jamie, his breathing finally steady. I knew something had to change. I couldn't let my mom's choices endanger my son's life. This wasn't just about a temporary stay anymore. It was about Jamie's health, his future. I had to make a decision. Suddenly, Jamie's coughing escalated, turning into a full-blown struggle for air. I rushed to his side. Jamie, buddy, can you breathe? Panic surged as I watched him gasp, his face reddening. His breathing grew more labored, wheezes growing louder and more desperate. It was too much. It was an asthma attack, and a bad one. We need to go to the hospital now, I declared, scooping him up and heading for the door. What's all this fuss about? My mom asked, more irritated than concerned. Jamie's having a severe asthma attack. We need to get him to the hospital immediately, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fear swirling inside me. A hospital again? My mother rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed. You're just overreacting. It's just a little smoke. He needs to get used to it. I stared at her, disbelief and anger bubbling inside me. He could die, Mom. Don't you get that? My voice cracked, the fear for Jamie's life making my heart race. Oh, stop being so dramatic. You're always so controlling, trying to dictate how I live in my own house. She waved me off, completely dismissing the seriousness of the situation. There was no time to argue. I rushed Jamie out to the car and drove as fast as I could, my hands shaking on the wheel, my mind racing with worry. At the hospital, the medical team sprang into action the moment we arrived, taking Jamie from my arms and hooking him up to machines. I watched them work, a mix of gratitude and terror swirling inside me. The doctors moved quickly, their faces serious and focused. "He's stable for now, but it was a close call," one of the doctors said after a while. "You did the right thing bringing him in. His condition could have gotten much worse if you had waited." When we returned home late that night, the house was quiet, but the smell of smoke hit me harder than before. It was a bitter reminder of why we'd ended up in the emergency room. Jamie was asleep in my arms, his breathing finally steady after the treatment. As I gently laid him on the couch, trying not to wake him, my mother appeared in the doorway, her face stern, a cigarette glowing between her fingers. "We need to talk," she said, her voice firm, cutting through the silence. I nodded, bracing myself. "We can't keep doing this, Mom. It's not safe for Jamie." She took a long drag from her cigarette, exhaling slowly, the smoke swirling around her. "I've made up my mind, Alex. I'm not changing my habits in my own house. If you and Jamie can't handle that, then maybe it's best if you find somewhere else to live." Her words hit me harder than I expected. "You're really going to choose smoking over your grandson's health? This is my home, Alex. I won't be dictated to on how I should live. Not even by you," she replied coldly. I looked down at Jamie, his small chest rising and falling peacefully, for now. A fierce protectiveness surged through me. "If that's your decision, then we'll leave. I won't let Jamie suffer because of your smoking." "Then leave," she said simply, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. I packed a few essentials, taking one last look around the house that had been my childhood home. It was filled with memories, both good and bad, but now it felt like a prison, one that could cost Jamie his health or worse. With Jamie still cradled in my arms, I stepped out into the cool night air. The local homeless shelter would have to do for now. It wasn't much, but it was a start, somewhere Jamie could finally breathe freely. At the shelter, I explained our situation, and the staff were understanding. They offered us a small room with clean bedding. It was stark and simple, but it was safe. As I tucked Jimmy into bed, wrapping the blanket snugly around him, a wave of emotions washed over me: relief, sadness, but also a deep, unshakable resolve. As Jamie slept soundly beside me, his breathing easy for the first time in days, I knew I had made the right decision. No matter how hard the road ahead would be, I would protect him. After all, that's what parents do. We make the hard choices, we sacrifice, and we do it all for love. A few days later, one of the shelter counselors, Maria, handed me a list of subsidized housing options. They prioritize cases with medical needs, so Jamie's condition might move you up the waiting list, she explained. "Thank you, Maria. I don't know what I'd do without all this help," I replied, a surge of gratitude filling me. Maria smiled and patted my shoulder. "You're doing great, Alex. It's tough, but you're not alone here." The support from the shelter community was overwhelming. Unlike my mother, these people didn't offer empty words. They provided real, actionable help. Other parents shared their experiences, offering tips on navigating social services, while the staff arranged workshops on financial planning and tenant rights. In the afternoons, I used the shelter's old computers to search for job openings. I needed something flexible enough to let me care for Jamie, but I was determined to rebuild our lives, but stable enough to secure our future. I applied to countless positions, from retail to administrative roles, anything that seemed like a potential fit. After one particularly tough day, filled with unsuccessful job interviews, I returned to the shelter feeling utterly defeated. That's when I found a note pinned to the door of our room. It was from a local business owner who often donated to the shelter. "Alex, heard you're looking for work. Stop by my shop tomorrow. Let's talk. Tom." That unexpected opportunity lifted my spirits. The next day, I met with Tom, who owned a small hardware store. He needed someone to manage the front end. We talked, and impressed by my eagerness and the determination he'd heard about from the shelter staff, he offered me the job on the spot. As weeks turned into months, our lives began to stabilize. I secured the job with Tom, and our names moved up on the housing list. Jamie's laughter became a constant, replacing the echoes of our past struggles. Life, with its new routines, work at the hardware store and evenings with Jamie, finally felt stable, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. But just as we were finding our footing, fate dealt another hand, this time affecting the person we'd left behind. One evening, after a long day of work followed by a joyful dinner with Jamie in our small room at the shelter, I received a call from an old neighbor. The news was shocking, though it felt like an inevitable conclusion to the path my mother had chosen. "Alex, there was a fire at your mom's house. She's okay, but the house is gone," the neighbor explained, her voice thick with concern and disbelief. A cold shiver ran down my spine. What happened? It was her cigarettes. She fell asleep with one lit, and the whole place went up. She's lucky to be alive. Hanging up the phone, I sat down heavily. Jamie looked up at me with wide, questioning eyes. "Is Grandma okay?" he asked softly. "She's okay, buddy. She's safe," I reassured him, though my mind raced. The irony wasn't lost on me. My mother had risked everything with her smoking, and now it had cost her everything. Finally, the call came that changed our lives forever. "Mr. Alex, we have an apartment available for you and Jamie," the voice from the housing agency announced one bright morning. It was a small 2-bedroom in a new building designed for families like ours, with rent adjusted to our income, making it affordable. As we moved into our new apartment, a palpable sense of relief washed over me. Unpacking boxes and setting up Jamie's new room, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, a weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying for so long. Jamie ran around, his laughter echoing in the empty spaces, filling them with hope and light. Life had taught us a harsh lesson in the most dramatic way possible. My mother, now staying with a relative, was on her own journey, hopefully reconsidering her habits. For us, it was a new chapter, one filled with fresh starts and the promise of a healthier, happier future. As our story comes to a close, I'd like to ask you something that might stir some reflection. If you were in Alex's shoes, would you have tried to reconcile with your mother after she lost her home? Or would you maintain your distance to protect your child's health? Where would you draw the line in family relationships, especially when health is at risk? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input enriches our community discussions. And if you like this video and want to see more stories like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing content that touches the heart and provokes thought. Thanks for watching.